Hey, you guys, I'm going to be wandering around my house. I'm going to take you guys with me. But I wanted to have this conversation really quick because earlier today, I shared a video by Kimberly on the For Harriet channel. Now, you guys know I do not agree with anything that she talks about 99.9% of the time, but I think she was really onto something with her latest video about, the Black women's or Black girls. I don't know why we always refer to ourselves as girls, luxury movement. And I was listening to what, some of the ladies were saying, and I was reading the comments. And I think the message that she was speaking on, like through all of like the liberal, performance talk and all that, was very valid. And I wanted to have a conversation about something that I do think to like build upon the thought process as a community, not specifically just looking at Black women, but as a community of Black people, something that is part of our collective stagnation. And that is our constant pursuit of, how do I want to put this? Our constant pursuit of integrating our value systems instead of creating and implementing value systems. And this includes educationally, monetarily, etc. But for today, I just want to specifically speak about money, right? I want to talk about how from a young age we are taught to attain money, to save money, to invest money, but we are never taught to create money. And, you know, some of you guys know I have a vlog channel which I hardly ever post on, but I have a commitment in December, you guys, to posting every single day of December on all my channels and on my members page and on my Patreon. So every single day of December. Let's see if I stick to that. But side note, that's a side note. But um on my vlog channel, back in the day, if I bought something that I liked, I would share it, like something luxury. I still do share stuff, but if I bought, like, say, a Chanel purse, or if I bought something from Yves Saint Laurent, I would share it because, I purchased it and I stopped doing that, right? I stopped doing that and I stopped doing it because I felt it was sending the wrong message. And what I mean by sending the wrong message is this. When we look at, and I teach my students about this, when we look at Europe, Europe itself has little to no natural resources, okay? They don't really have much as far as food resources, things that are naturally occurring in Europe. They don't have much as far as mineral resources. The land is not good for growing many things. They don't have a huge uh, a huge climate of biodiversity, both in plants and animals. It's minimally right biodiverse on their continent, and so a big part of their culture is traveling throughout the world, um, dominating, and this has been historically, right? Dominating people groups and stealing the resources that their lands have because almost every place on the planet except for Antarctica is more biodiverse, has more mineral resources, has just more, right? As far as naturally occurring value on the land and the animal and the plant resources than Europe. And so, what Europe has done, and this is by their own word, what the Europeans have done is they've created a system where they harvest valuable materials from around the planet, and then they bring those materials to Europe, and they have people that they call artisans create things out of these materials, be they clothing or vehicles or purses or shoes or whatever it is, right? But all of this is done through the resources that historically were raped and pillaged. right? Rape and pillaging went on to obtain these resources. And now that we've moved forward into 2021, the rape and pillage has been established. The European presence and dominance has been established in many places. And so it's easy to forget that a lot of these luxury acquisitions, that their root is oppression of non-European people. It's very easy to forget that. So that when we have conversations about Black woman luxury, I don't know why we keep calling ourselves girls, but Black girl luxury, Black woman luxury, when we have conversations about acquiring homes or vehicles, when we have conversations about integrating into the status quo, that's why I said all roads lead to revolution. So people disagreed, and I disagree with most things that Kimberly says on her channel, but she was on point today. Like I said, 23 minutes in, she made a very good point, and that was really could have been the point of her whole video, which is when Beyonce was the first person to wear the Tiffany diamond, and Black South Africans are pointing out that that jewel was stolen, assessing your own oppression is not a flex. And this is something I had to realize too. And perhaps we can say when there's division of the classes amongst Black people, that those who have not had certain things will feel that the narrative is being pushed that we should not access certain things as a people. But for my conversation, I would definitely argue that our goal should be to create, not to access, right? Our goal should be to create, not access. Our goal should be to create monetary systems. Our goal should be to create a luxury industry. Our goal should be to create commerce. Our goal should be to recapture resources so that when we talk about accessing luxury, what we're speaking of is not accessing the fruit of our own ancestors' oppression, because that's really the conversation that we're having, right? Is can we access the fruit of our ancestors' oppression through the lens of the oppressor, right? Can I access what is considered a luxury good that was built with stolen resources, with resources that have blood all over them? And that's the question that, that's what we're asking. And I think because we've always been taught to consume and obtain, and we are not taught, right, to rebuild systems and create, that when anybody takes a step back and says, well, maybe we don't want to consume and obtain, maybe we want to retain resources and create, it can feel like you're being told you don't deserve anything nice. Well, if you have the resources, and I don't mean resources as in money, I mean if you have the mineral resources, right? The land resources, the water resources, the commerce resources, right? Then you are accessing your own. Right now, when we talk about getting money, when we talk about investment in the status quo, what we are really talking about genuinely is that we want to build something on the backs of the violence and the murder and the rape and the oppression of all of these groups of people, where the resources to create these so-called luxury items are coming from. Does this mean that it's innately bad to want something nice? No. I'm saying that I don't think most people, when they're going for their newest purse or their newest pair of shoes or their newest car or, their newest chain, right? Or the latest perfume, I don't think that most people are separating the need to build, create, and control resources so that the luxury you access is built on the back of your revolutionary ideology of taking back resources and then creating industry out of those resources that have been reclaimed, versus elevating yourself because you're able to participate in the fruit, right? You get part of the booty of the rape and pillage of non European peoples and non European lands. And I think that is a conversation that is worth having. And that's why I posted her video. Again, I don't agree with most things that she says, but I think she was very on point in that regard. She was very on point in that regard. And that my personal attainment of a luxury item, right, does not change the backstory behind how these resources were obtained and has no bearing or effect on the lives of Black people on in mass. Glam Girl XX Maya said, then support Black owned designers and creators, but it's beyond Black owned designers and creators because most of these people source from China. It's bigger than me buying my own resources back and creating an item and then purchasing from a Black designer. I think that's what and I think this is what I'm trying to say. We don't talk about taking control over the raw materials used to make the textiles and then controlling the textile factories and then sourcing that out to Black people. Then we're supporting Blackness. But when a Black designer has eyelashes or clothing or something from a textile factory somewhere in Asia, where really Asian people are doing everything and they're just putting their label on it, we are literally still doing the same thing. A Black person putting a label on something doesn't make it Black. But again, we're taught that our participation should be in line with the status quo. And so I thought it was valid pushback that she gave. I thought that was valid pushback that she gave on it. It's valid. It's valid. It's a conversation we need to have to just expand our thinking because we talk about this a lot on my channel, right? There's the micro and the macro view. And we're very micro oriented as a people. Hi goodness. So I don't know. What do you guys think about Black people attaining luxury? And then also, I think another good point, we've talked about this here on this channel when I talked about the conversation around high value anything. If you guys go to my unlisted playlist, maybe a year and a half ago, I did a couple of videos, and I think they're over on my unlisted playlist, about how high value conversations in the Black community are stupid. Right? That some of the conversations we have around child support and alimony and high value men are dumb in the Black community because most Black people don't have money. Most Black people will never be in a position to pay alimony. Most Black people will pay $50, $25, maybe 100 in child support, if ever, right? Most Black people are broke. So even having conversations about these topics is not about our people don't deserve. It's a dumb conversation to have. Like there are other conversations that we need to have before we have conversations that have nothing to do with the majority of our people. These conversations have nothing to do with most of our people. Somebody came into my comment section on one of my videos and made the dumbest comment I've ever heard. He said, Black people are fiscally conservative. And I'm like, fiscally conservative where? Do you even know what fiscally conservative means? Where are we fiscally conservative? Nowhere. Black people are not fiscally conservative. We don't consider creating monetary systems. We consider creating businesses at the base level, but we don't consider creating industry. A sister in the comment section was saying there's some designers in Ghana, but who's going to support them? We don't consider international commerce. And when we do consider international commerce, most of us are doing business with the Chinese so that we can mark up products that they made and sell them as Black owned. We are very self focused. This is true. We're self focused, and it's a flaw because we're so self centered and self focused, we don't see that our individual investment in ourselves is why we don't progress as a community. And so one individual Black person or a small group of Black people cannot hold any real power to be effectual in anything. This is a double edged sword of individualism. Is individuals are not overwhelmingly effective unless the collective is viewed as a source of influence and power. One individual's power is as valid as the collective vision of that type of individual. If I say white man, if I say white man, the reality is most people will associate white maleness with having the most power, which means that an individual white man can make a large impact because his white maleness affords him the collective view, which is why you can have a broke down, what did you have, that homeless guy who grabbed that chick at McDonald's? While he felt empowered even as a homeless white man, he felt empowered because of the view of the collective. I think often in our community we forget that individualism is only as powerful and as valuable and as impactful as the collective is viewed. Your individuality can only take you so far as the collective is powerful, as the collective's overarching, right? Character is perceived by the outside world. And I think we often forget that. So, on the base level, in the conversation, because people had an issue with it, but I have to give credit where credit is due. She made a good point. She made a good point. But on the base level, all we're hearing is, oh, so what, Black women, Black people, we're not allowed to we're not allowed to want a Benz. We're not allowed to want a Birkin, which is laughable because you have Black people who don't own homes, but who own a Birkin bag. You have Black people eating hand to mouth, but who will put out hundreds of dollars for a pair of shoes. It actually is I have to agree, it's a toxic movement. It is toxic. It's toxic. It keeps you off focus. And honestly, I'm going to tell you something. The investment in attaining the fruit of your own ancestors and some current people's oppression, the investment and the value that we put in that is energy that we're not putting into creating monetary systems, creating infrastructure, creating industry, engaging in national or international commerce, right? All the energy that we're putting into obtaining a Mercedes, right, is energy that we're not putting into the stuff that will have longevity, the things that will impact generations to come. We're very focused on what we're driving, what we're wearing, how we look in this present time, and we don't consider the impact the overarching impact. And I think this is why we're at the bottom of the totem pole as a people. I mean, other than our inability to actually ever engage in physical revolutionary action in mass, other than that, the other reason is because the footwork. See, the people living now have to be willing to put in the footwork and not be so concerned about, you know, their immediate comfort so that the people coming in the future can reap the benefits of the work that we put in. But because we're so concerned with our individual comfort, we never are willing to dig in our heels and put in the dirty work needed so that several generations. Let me tell you something. You know how our ancestors ended up slaves here? Let's just have a real conversation. Those of you who are descendant of slaves from the United States, do you know how they ended up slaves here? Because a bunch of white people came over to what we now call the United States, and they lived in disgusting conditions. Let's just keep it real. It was not nice. There were no houses here, there were no paved roads. They lived in disgusting conditions, and they were willing to kill, steal, and live in dirty conditions so that future generations could come into America and have paved streets and buildings and a constitution and all that. The first Europeans that came here didn't live in the lap of luxury. And because they were so committed to the cause, that is how our ancestors ended up here in oppression. Right now, if I said, let's all just live minimally, let's all just live lives that are not super pleasurable, right? Let's all just focus on not what we attain in our lifetime, but how what we build is going to impact our great grandchildren's lives. Y'all would be like, I'm not giving up anything. I'm not giving up anything. I'm not about to wear raggedy shoes so that my great grandchild, right, can engage in international commerce selling shoes, right? You're not going to say, okay, I'm not going to aspire to have designer bags so that my great grandchildren can own textile companies and control a sizable portion of the purse industry globally. If I say, you're not going to say, okay, I'm not going to worry about if I'm eating at a fancy restaurant or getting good Instagram pictures of food so that my great grandchild can own not just farmland, but so that our people can own countries, right? Sizable portions of land and water resources. I'm going to sacrifice all my comfort now so that my great grandchildren and your great grandchildren and your great grandchildren can control more than the product of industry. We're very focused on attaining the products of industry, but we don't want to create industry. We're very focused on starting a business where we source all of our materials from the same place. I mean, honestly, really, when we talk about Black-owned businesses, what we're really talking about is supporting the same people we've always been supporting, which are non-Black people, by way of a Black person that is getting sold things at cost or getting sold things, right, for a business discount. That's really what we're talking about. Let's just keep it real. When we talk about supporting a Black-owned business, we mean a Black person who's buying t-shirts from China and then going to a non-Black person for their screen printing, and all the screen printing supplies also came from China. Do you know what I'm saying? But they put something Black on it, and then they put a label on it, and so then we buy it, and then all of a sudden we're supporting Black industry. But that Black industry is fully fully being supported by non-Black industry. So really, what's the difference from me going and buying a Nike t-shirt and me buying it from you? Other than that, the front man is Black. The front man is Black. But that's all we're focused on. We're either focused on personal attainment or that the front person is Black. But we're not worried about the people behind the front man. And this is why even supporting Black owned doesn't really go anywhere, because the people who are Black owned, like you'll have people that have makeup line and lashes line, and where do you think they're sourcing themselves from? How is going to Claire's for some cheap earrings any different than a person who claims to be a Black owned jeweler? Now, there's the exception of people who make their jewelry, but it's the same thing. Where are you sourcing the clips, the beads, all the things that you're making your jewelry with? Are you sourcing those from the motherland? Probably not. So really the front man's skin color changes, but the industry that's being supported is still non-Black, because our thinking is so base level. And I think the whole luxury movement can be wrapped up in a tiny little bow to that, right? The whole idea of luxury and Black people participating in luxury is wrapped up in a bow in that. It's about the front man. And it's our ability to obtain. We want to be iced out in diamonds, right? But we're not talking about being iced out and sustainably sourced non-blood diamonds. We don't know where these diamonds came from. But I'll tell you something, most diamond mines are in Africa. And most of the African countries where these diamond mines are located are poor. I'll tell you that much. We love gold, but most gold is in Africa, and most of the country where those gold mines are poor. So we're talking about the attainment of luxury. It's sort of like, you know how everybody looked down on the house slave? But now most Black people are house slaves. And you're looking to attain the luxury that's in the big house. And if anybody tells you, but wait, if you are living it up in the big house, you're supporting the abuse of the slaves in the field, you don't want to hear that, because, you know, people who didn't grow up in the field should not be out here saying what should or shouldn't be desired out of the big house. The reality is we are all functioning as house slaves. That's the reality. Black people are house slaves. You're in the big house now. And the goal is to obtain all the things that are in the big house. The goal is not the liberation of the people in the field. The goal is not to burn the big house down, because they attained all of those comforts by the labor of the slaves in the field. Our goal is to live like they live, own what they own, wear what they wear, do what they do, and then tack, a hashtag on it and make it Black. Just a hashtag Black. And because our desire for what's in the big house is so deep, I think it's fair to criticize the way that she did the Black women's luxury movement. Now, I'm criticizing it for somewhat different reasons, but I think it's fair to criticize it. And it's not because nobody wants you to have a Chanel bag. It's because it feeds into your own oppression. It feeds into the oppression of people who look just like you. And that's what the backlash with Jay-Z and Beyonce was over. I didn't talk about it because I don't care about Jay-Z or Beyonce, right? But that is the backlash over it. Is that you reach the pinnacle and the first Black woman to ever put on this diamond that was gained through the oppression of Black people. And this is Black girl luxury. This is what's promoted by rap culture to men. This is when men say high value, this is what they mean. They mean, I have attained what is in the big house. Now I am valuable. This is why when we talk about so-called pro-blackness, right? And we want to minimize it to who you're having sex with, people literally do this, right? People literally want to minimize it to who you crawled into bed with. But they don't want to talk about all the other stuff. They don't want to talk about how you have black men running around social media saying they're valuable because they've made it into the big house. I'm just like the people in the big house now. I'm just like Massa now. I have rights to use the carriage now. Remember that narrative we did on Lewis Clark, not the explorer, but Lewis Clark the slave? Go to my power playlist. Remember that when we read through the Lewis Clark, the speeches he was giving over those few days, and he talked about the benefits that the house slaves got. They got the carriages, they got this, they got that. And he talked about the double-edged sword of that. And then in 2021, what is valuable to our men? What makes them valuable to us? That they attain the things in the big house. Not that we're not chasing men that are creating infrastructure systems, engaging in international commerce. We're chasing after those people who have squirreled away. You know how squirrels, they run around before winter and they gather up nuts and they hide them places? They've squirreled away like little rodents. They've squirreled away the hallmarks of our own oppression, right? They squirreled away the hallmarks, the things that used to only belong to whites, that they gained through our oppression, our ancestors' oppression. They have squirreled that away and now they're high value. And we co sign this. Women do the same thing. We talk about securing the bag, securing the bag. This is a stripper term. This is a whore term, right? Because you whore out your womanhood, and then they would throw money at you, and then you'd scoop it up and it would all get shoved into a trash bag, and that is your bag, right? Our community has assimilated that garnering the fruit of our own oppression, both the men and the women, garnering the fruit of our own oppression is a flex. And we are so heavily conditioned to desire this that if somebody criticizes it, we think that they're saying, oh, well, you're comfortable. That's why you don't care. Well, maybe sometimes being comfortable gives you, when you're not hungry, let me put it another way. When you're not starving, all food doesn't look good. When you're not ravenous, everything sat in front of you is not considered delicious. Then you can be more discerning because I had a good meal. So now I'm a little critical over the fact that that broccoli is a little funny colored. I'm a little critical over the quality of meat that I'm having, right? I think in our community, we're so famished when it comes to comfort and accomplishments that all comfort and all accomplishments are a good look to us, is a sign of progress, is a hashtag, is something that we should seek to attain, right? So the question then becomes, are we capable as a people of divorcing ourselves Can we divorce ourselves from the constant pursuit of ultimate house slave status? Can we divorce ourselves from equating individual value and accomplishment and progress from our ability to access the fruit of our historical oppression? Are we willing to sacrifice the here and now for the longer term picture? Is it what you accomplish here and now? And some people say, well, that's why I have a house and I have a savings account because I'm going to pass it down to future generations. That doesn't secure anything for them. Your house doesn't secure anything for them. Controlling a county, a city, a state, controlling water resources, controlling gold mines, controlling mineral mines. You know, minerals, you know how we need steel and we need ore, right? We need ore to create metals. We need certain minerals to build the computer chips. We need diamonds, we need gold, not just for jewelry, but for actual industry. The goal should be to work together for a common purpose that is bigger than I have a house and a savings account. And I'm going to pass that on to my one or two offspring. Because your house and your savings account, again, that goes back to what I was saying before. Your individual progress and power is only as valuable as the collective is viewed. And our collective is not viewed as powerful, intimidating, a force to be reckoned with, a force to be respected, or anything like that. Black people are viewed as benign at best and a tool to be used to minoritize non-minority groups at worst. What do I mean by that? A tool to be used to minoritize non-minority groups. What do I mean by that? I mean that a white man can put on a dress, say he's a woman, and then use Black people and the Black struggle to validate his oppression as a white man. That's what I mean. At best, Black people are benign, meaning we are ignored. We are a non-factor. We impact nothing. And at worst, Blackness and Black people are viewed as tools for non-oppressed populations to identify themselves as oppressed. So then your house and your car and your accomplishments will have zero impact to the Black community because your self focus and my self focus, our self focus, ultimately, what that's going to result in is nothing because our individual mouthpieces and our individual platforms will not have an impact because Blackness is either benign or a tool. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up in if an individual Black person has taken a trip somewhere or is wearing Prada or owns a certain type of house or is wearing enough gold chains, right? We get so caught up in individual success as if that is a win for the collective when our collective persona publicly for hundreds of years has been benign or a tool. Today, we are a tool to affirm the oppression of non oppressed populations. 500 years ago, we were a tool to build the things that were needed by non oppressed populations. But one thing that has never changed is Blackness has always been benign at best and a tool at worst. So then we don't have the luxury of individualism because individualism is a luxury afforded to people when their collective has enough influence, power, and respect to make individuals capable of flexing. And a flex is what happened to Kyle Rittenhouse. A flex is when a little white boy can leave a state with a gun, go to another state, kill two people, and his mother doesn't go to jail for child endangerment or for neglect, because why is your child running off to another state with a gun, lady? But the little boy is able to get off. This kid's able to get off scot free because whiteness and his individual action as a white boy or a young man, a white young man, his individual action is impactful because white maleness has a reputation. It is for the same reason that Black parents literally get put in jail for their child not going to school. You have a child truant, miss too many days of school, and you as a parent can be arrested. They have a child grab a gun, jump a state, and kill a couple people, and their child nor the parent ends up anywhere. There are no consequences. Why? Because individual power is determined by the collective character, the collective, and how they are viewed. But Black people want to be individuals so bad, but we don't have enough collective flex to engage in individuality. Individualism is a luxury that is not ours. See, you have to have a collective power for that. We can't even harness our own oppression. Everybody can harness our own oppression for their benefit, but the minute Black people harness their own oppression for our benefit, we are told that we are playing identity politics. So a group of people who can't even harness their own oppression shouldn't be having conversations about any kind of luxury. Black girl, Black man, Black nothing. We have no luxuries. A Mercedes is not a luxury. A nice house is not a luxury. Your ability to attain all the dollars that you don't control nor print nor determine the price of, when we can practice individualism, when one Jewish person can sell enough stock to change the face and the value of the American dollar, then Jews can now practice individualism and talk about Jew girl luxury. Okay? Because one Jew can do that. When one little Black boy can grab a gun, hop state, kill two people, and get off cold turkey, scot free, then we can talk about Black girl luxury. When one Black woman, right, cannot go to jail because her child was truant, then we can talk about high value Black men, right? But there is no high value. There are high value Jewish men. There are high value Asian men. There are high value white men. I mean, these are all variations of white, though, right? Jew, Asian, we're talking about just the many shades of white, okay? They can practice individualism. They can talk about luxury, this and that, because their collective persona provides individual protection and allows individuals to flex. That white woman was able to walk into that Black man's apartment, murder him, and get off with a hug and a Bible. Because hashtag white girl luxury. But we want to hashtag a Birkin bag. We want to hashtag, the next time I see the hashtag Black girl luxury, I want to see it because somebody walked into an apartment, shot a white man, and got off scot-free with a hug and a Bible. Hashtag Black girl luxury. That's luxury. That's what luxury is. Luxury is not, I went to Mykonos. Hashtag Black girl luxury, I got to go to Greece. Hashtag Black girl luxury, I got to buy an Italian designer bag. No, hashtag white kid luxury, I got to jump state, kill two people, and get off. Hashtag white woman luxury, I got to block your way into your own apartment. I got to shoot you dead while you were sitting on your own chair in your home and get a hug. We're concerned about if daddy's got a new Benz, right? I want to hashtag Black girl luxury when I Karen out and a all Black police force shows up to carry off that naughty white person, right? Now, I'm not saying that Black people should abuse their power should they ever gain it. I'm saying, do you see the retardation in these hashtags, in these ideologies about high value and Black girl luxury and the whole nine? It's all revolving around attainment of resources when resources don't benefit people who have no collective power. Your purse, your car, your house, your bank account serves no benefit. That's why they punked out the one of the Black billionaires in the United States, one of the few one of the 15 Black billionaires on the planet. 15. They punked him out. You know why they punked him out? Because you don't matter. He said it himself. He said, money is no protection and I'm a billionaire. And then 2 years later, they pimped him. They're pimping him out. They're punking him out. They made him state's witness. Because our individuality is contingent upon our progress. So before we start hashtagging about where we've been and what spa treatment we've had, and ooh, look at me, I'm holding a fancy glass in a nice building, right? Then why don't we talk about what luxury really looks like? Luxury doesn't look like your ability to, and this is much what happened when we got integrated, right? This is much what happened when we got integrated. Hashtag integration, right? Integration is the ability for you to take your resources and sink it into another community. So while we're hashtagging Mykonos, what we're really hashtagging is the ability for Black money to be taken over to Greece, and then a picture to be taken of a Black woman in Greece giving Greeks Black American money, and then hashtagging and throwing a photo up on a non-Black platform. Hashtag Black girl luxury. When we talk about high value men and we're looking at the chains and the car and the house, we're talking about Black men taking money that they've made and then giving that back to a Jewish bank so that they can now own a house and a car that really the bank owns. And then every time they get resources into their household, they can allocate those resources to the Jews. Hashtag high value Black man. Hashtag high value Black man. Not hashtag high value Jew man, because that's where all the money's going, right? Right? Not hashtag German construction, because that's who's really being supported. Right? Not any of that, but hashtag Black people living their best lives. Is that our best life? Is our best life taking resources and sinking them back into the very system that oppresses us? And that's why I said all roads lead to revolution. We could have any conversation and you know where it's going to head. It's going to head to revolution. It's the only place that it could ever go. It can't go anywhere else. Not if we logically sit back and think this out. Nilly said, everything you said is valid and true, but if a Black woman can afford those luxuries, it should be okay as well. Black women live under another man's system. She can only navigate through it through it at this point. Okay. So I think we should separate two things. I think we should separate operating with understanding with accountability. Accountability for the state of the Black community is on Black men, right? Because it's white men who are their competition. So accountability for the state of the community, accountability for building monetary systems, accountability for engaging in revolutionary action, accountability for those things falls with men. But that has nothing to do with us understanding. Look, here's the problem. And this is, and I called myself out on it. I called myself out on it. Here's the problem. When I unboxed something from Chanel, every Black woman or girl that sees me does not have the conversation that we're having right now in their mind. Okay? They don't. They don't. They just see me, Black, with something from Chanel. And then their desire is towards Chanel. They're not thinking about all the conversation. We're having a whole conversation. And I guess that's where the accountability comes in, right? That's where the accountability comes in. You can't renegade be the spook that sat by the door. You guys know the spook that sat by the door, right? You can't renegade being the spook that sat by the door. Otherwise, at that point, it is reckless. Once somebody is watching us, it becomes reckless. That's what I had to recognize. Because without the context, am I about to give this speech every time I unbox something from YSL? Am I about to, okay, before I get to this unboxing, I just want to remind you all that we live under a system of oppression, and that technically speaking, when we purchase European goods that are made of materials that they have to source from countries that have been raped and pillaged and dominated by their people, that we are contributing to our own oppression. But now that that's out of the way, I'd like to share this beautiful bag with you that I purchased. See, nobody's about to give that caveat before they unbox something, right? So is it about we can't have it? No, I have nice things. I have nice things, but it's not about that we can't have it. It's about the fact that we do have a responsibility. And the responsibility to be loosey goosey, see, it's such a torn thing because on one hand, I'm like, I just want to see Black people living their best lives, right? But I think when Black people are showing living their best lives, that what should be portrayed is not materialistic consumerism. So that is why I personally had to change my personal approach. And I had to stop doing unboxings and stuff like that because it was sending the wrong message. So when I try to demonstrate that I'm living my best life, I try to demonstrate that by spending time with my family, right? I try to demonstrate that by demonstrating that Black women can be homemakers and have comfortable lives, right? I try to demonstrate that through volunteer work, right? I try to demonstrate that in other ways. That doesn't stop me from having comforts, but what it does do is it makes me take accountability and responsibility for the fact that everything that I portray, I'm not going to give a caveat before it. And then if somebody is watching me and they think that I am promoting a certain thing because I don't give the caveat, because we're not going to sit down and have this conversation about the depth of what it really means to buy into the ideation of luxury, then I then become responsible as a Black woman for promoting a mindset unchecked. So yes, the state of the community, Black men need to get on that. Wars are not fought by women. Monetary wars, trade wars, and physical wars are not fought by women. That has nothing to do with us, right? But the cultivation of mindsets, the cultivation of value systems, a great deal of that is controlled by women. Like we all have a part to play, right? We all have a part to play. So I just think that for those Black women and men who are privileged, who can access certain things, that all the more do we need to be careful about what we're giving. And Mr. is the first person to say it. He's the first person to say it. For the degrees and everything, those of you who were chopping it up with us last night and we were kind of being goofy and things like that, right? He's the first person to remind our family to stay grounded, because when you are Black, because our collective image is what we need to strive to improve and to put power behind. When you are Black and privileged, you are all the more responsible to your people. All the more. You have to be careful how you move. All the more because you are in the minority. Not careful about how the world sees you, but careful about the impression that you give to your people. Because normally it's the Black people that are the most oppressed and have the least that go the hardest for the cause. And the minute a Black person gets a little bit of money, they're not Black anymore, or they're Black but they're not that kind of Black anymore. They're a different kind of Black. I think I did a video on this, the good Blacks, right? It's called The Good Blacks. Go visit my unlisted playlist. The good Blacks versus the bad Blacks. So yes, I'm not saying that if you can afford to have comfort, that you should not have comfort. I'm saying that 99.9% of the time, everything that was discussed in this conversation is not the discussion that we have with ourselves or anybody else when we are seeking to obtain luxury. And we have to be honest about that. We have to be honest about that, right? I went live yesterday, Rozzy. So, anyway, let's have a very, 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 very short discussion, y'all. Very short, right? I rambled on. Let's have a very short discussion. If anybody agrees or disagrees with this stance, the stance that I'm taking, we'll keep it brief. I'm going to try to multitask. But if we're all in agreement here, I can shake the spot. Like, if we're all in agreement here, then awesome. Somebody will disagree later, right? But if you think that there's value in the ideation of and the ideologies of the ideation and ideologies, both things, of high value Black men, Black girl luxury, this kind of pandering toward the attainment of these items and this lifestyle, then feel free to explain that. But I've explained in depth why I think there's no value in that. I think there's no value, and I actually think it's counterproductive, even if that is your goal. Is the live stream still up? It's only going to be up for members and patrons. It's not. It was. We were just cutting up a little bit, you guys. It wasn't that serious of a live stream. We were just cutting up. You know, we were just cutting up on. Just he had been out of town for 5 days, and we just came to have a little fun with you guys. So it was a little bit naughty and a little bit nice. So that's why I didn't. I did not leave it. I did not leave it up like that. Hello? No, it was a little bit naughty. Turn down your volume before you talk. I did not leave it up. I did not leave it up like that. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
What are your thoughts?
Well, my thought is, I see where you. Yes, I can hear you. Um, Hi. My thoughts are, I can see what you're saying, But I think there's a little more behind black girl luxury than just that. I think that the idea of it was that black women deserve to have nice and good things and luxurious things in their life. Because a lot of times we've seen as just a person that is supposed to work and quote unquote mule. You know what I mean? Like we are not even deserving of any of those things. It is not supposed to be that that's all that you aspire is to luxury. You have it's not that you don't have political views or you don't have any other things that are important, but societally it has been that black women should not even think of anything luxurious. You don't have any right to be in that space. So I think that's why black girl luxury started up and kind of caught fire, because a lot of times you can go into a space that is quote unquote luxurious and they're like, "What? You're here?" Like they're shocked that you even belong in that space.
I want you to define like the type of space though.
Okay, so it would whether it's designer handbag store or an extremely nice restaurant.
And who are we going to find in those spaces though?
I'm sorry, when you say who are we going to find? I
Yeah,
don't know what you mean.
predominantly, who are we going to find in these spaces that makes us look out of place?
Um, I'm in New York, so it's probably a little. It may be a little different in wherever state you're coming from, but you're gonna find you will find white people or Caucasian or European people for the most part. You will have some Asian people as well sometimes, not so much.
They'll be white
But
Asians though, won't they?
well, yeah, for the
Yeah.
most of the time. But the thing is that luxury, I believe, is something that you can give to yourself. Privilege is not something that you usually can give to yourself. That's something extended to you.
But isn't
Um,
privilege a luxury? I mean, isn't luxury the fruit of privilege?
luxury. No, because
So
and here's
is
why I say not. Here's why
okay,
I say
yeah, because I want you to, yeah, I want you to qualify that because I
because
would say luxury is the fruit of privilege, but I want to hear why you think it's not.
because here's why. I can come from a background where I have had. I,
I think you have to turn us back down, turn us down so you only hear me on here. Don't
okay.
listen to us on YouTube.
Okay. I'm trying to see where the YouTube is.
Yeah.
Where I'm hearing you. Yeah, I'm having a horrible problem finding it. I'm sorry. I hope it's down now. Um, what I was saying about luxury, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Yeah. What I was saying about luxury is that luxury, you can come from a background by which no one has given you any privileges, right? No one did anything extra for you. And you have actually worked yourself and your career to a point that you can now afford to buy things that are luxurious. You know what I mean? No one had to give you anything extra. You've done it yourself. You
Okay.
can buy something luxurious.
So this is
Privilege I can't give to myself.
so
Privilege
that
is something that's extended to me.
so I think two different things are happening here. So let's say if I'm starving, right?
Right.
I'm starving. And every once in a while I can buy a good meal, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that I'm well fed. That means that I'm starving and I'm treating myself to a good meal here and there. That is so to me, what we're doing is, for me, privilege and luxury are intertwined. When you have privilege, you create spaces for those who are privileged. And those who are not privileged do seem like outsiders when they step into spaces that were created for those with privilege. And that's why oftentimes they look at us crazy when we come in there, because those spaces were not created for us. They were created for privileged classes, and Black people, our collective, is not considered a privileged class, ergo, we don't belong there. And I think sometimes we, as a collective, and I've done this in the past as well, we convolute being able to enter a privileged space and partake with attaining luxury. When what it is it's getting a taste of what somebody else has. And that's essentially what it is. We're getting a taste. We're dipping our toe in, the privilege pool. Oh, this is what it feels like to go in there and purchase something. But the space is still for the privilege, right? The space is still for the privilege. I think where we cross into Black women truly having access to luxury, I think it is when Black women are privileged. A lot of Black female complaint comes from our lack of privilege in our womanhood, right? We lack privilege, and those privileges give us the ease of life, give us the ability to not mule, give us the ability to enter into spaces that are for women who are privileged and partake in the things that privileged women do, which is essentially relax, get a massage, you know what I mean, have a nice glass of champagne, have somebody bring your items to you versus you having to walk around the store and pick and choose what you want. But again, that's why I went back to an individual Black woman's ability to partake in a space that is not designed for Blackness
I
is
understand.
not a luxury. The luxury comes in when there are spaces and the expectation is that we're coming through there because the collective Black face is viewed as a privileged class. We're viewed as part of the privileged class or as the privileged class. So that's why I think we have to delineate, because otherwise we can very easily become satisfied. And that goes back to my individual progress versus, a Black woman. Remember Oprah, that incident she had?
Yes.
It's like that's what Blackness does to you when the collective Black face has no privilege. There's no luxury that anybody will honor because she got caught up because she wasn't presenting in her normal way. She got caught up being treated like any other Black person because the collective of Blackness, there's no luxury there. Her luxury, that's what I'm saying, she was just dipping her toe in the pool, and she got quickly reminded that, oh, we're very quick to forget that you are not you as an individual, but you are just a Black person. And she got treated like just a Black person, right? Instead of being treated like Oprah the individual. And that's why I said that's our danger in individualism. So I hear what you're saying, but I'm saying that we have to recognize, even if we navigate in those spaces, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, because I do, right? But what I'm saying is that that has to be part of a wider conversation, that we recognize that it's not a flex for us because we really aren't accessing luxury. We are dipping our toe in the pool, right? And then they're
Right.
going to scrub the pool clean until the next time we come around. And if that can happen to Oprah, then we know that we don't have access like that. Right. So it is a facade that may make us feel good in the moment, but it is a facade that is something also that the collective cannot benefit from, and that we even may not benefit from. If I show up wrong somewhere, I'm not going to get those benefits. Just like when Oprah showed up wrong somewhere, she did not get those benefits, right? Which means that we are not accessing luxury, because luxury is the arm of privilege, right? Luxurious spaces are created for the privileged. Without privilege, you don't truly have access. You have rich white people that go in places looking bummy and crazy, right? But the
You do.
expectation is that they belong there because of their privilege. And so, I mean, I think Do you see where I'm going with this? Like
I
I
see
hear,
where you're going with it, but here's my issue with it. So that means non-white Asians are doing the same thing. Anybody that's not white is doing the same thing, and therefore they're
no,
not,
no,
because
no,
it's
no.
holding us to something entirely different, which I
Well,
do
because we are
understand.
entirely different.
No, that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I do understand we are entirely different, but there has to be a point of where even if you were someplace, let's say just taking a luxurious vacation in
Hmm.
another country, you should still have the right to do it. I don't see it as it being counterproductive. I see a lot of times women, particularly black women, I'm just going to talk about black women, they don't see where they deserve to pamper themselves, to have anything luxurious. Their entire life is to work hard and mule. And to me, that is insane, because changing the structure in one lifetime is never going to happen.
Well, that's
Doesn't
why I
mean
said
you
it would
shouldn't
be for
work at
your
it.
that's why
Right.
I said it
Doesn't
would
mean
be
you
for
shouldn't
your
work at
great
it.
grand yeah, I would
No,
say
that's what I'm
that's why I said
saying.
it would be for your great grandchildren, but I don't think we should convolute. I don't think that we should convolute, like it's not a polar, right? It's not either
Okay.
we do nothing for ourselves and we just don't partake in any self-care or any, comfort and just mule on, or we go to the other polar. Here's the thing. We're sitting here having this conversation, but let's keep it
Right.
real. Let's keep it real. When we see luxury at the hands of Black women on social media, is the intellectualism surrounding what's going on even remotely reaching the levels that we are engaging right now?
No, it's not
Okay, so
supposed
there
to.
there that's what I mean is there's the danger. That's why I said Black women who do have access and intellect, right? We have to recognize that the way that it is being assimilated is not with a thoughtful eye. The way it's being assimilated is at the most base possible levels ever. And
I'm
that
going
is
to
where
say
it
that your
becomes
experience has
problematic.
been, I'm going to say your experience has been very different from the way that I've seen people understand it. So I can't argue with your lived experience. My lived experience is a little different. So we are going to see it differently, because I don't think they're not getting that, yeah, this is not everything. Like, I think they get that. I think they get served self care. I think they get luxury. And I think they get that you can go too far or overboard with anything.
Do you think
But
that
for
they're
the most part,
correlating?
Black women have never been seen, for the most part, as deserving luxury. The last woman you've ever seen on TV was probably Dominique, Devereaux, and Dynasty. And of course, that's fantasy. But what I'm saying to you is that those images don't come up. They just don't.
But I'm saying that the luxury is not in the presentation or what you can attain. The luxury, like I said, luxury is giving birth to a child, and because I just think this is such a good juxtaposition. Luxury is giving birth to a child, having the child grab a gun, jump state, kill two people, and get off.
I
That's
think that's
luxury.
privilege.
Lu-
I don't think
but
that's
that's why
luxury.
I said is luxury is the arm of privilege. That's what I'm saying. A Black woman can go in and buy a Birkin bag, right? And that's why I brought up Oprah, and buy a Birkin bag and still suffer, right? Oppression with a Birkin bag. And that's why I said we can dip our toe in the pool and we can play the charade of luxury, but we don't have access to luxury. Purchasing an item from Balmain does not give you access to luxury. It gives you access to a Balmain jacket. It gives you access to that blazer or that t shirt, but it doesn't give you access to the privilege that comes along with the space that was truly created for people who were accessing that space before you got the coin to go in there and buy your little piece of clothing. And that's why I'm saying Black women, it's not about us not partaking. It's about us recognizing that partaking in something and then having a true place in that space are different. So, what we're really talking about is Black women partaking in luxury. We're just partaking. The space is not for us. We do not get the protection of the privilege that came from the creation of that space, because let's not forget, these spaces were created for those people with privilege. You were a privileged person, so you didn't shop, you didn't eat, you didn't get your nails done, and you did not live with those people who were beneath you. And we are convoluting being able to go to the country club with the country club was created for us. And
Well,
I
no,
think what
yeah, I
Black
see what
women
you're saying.
deserve is for the country club to be created for us,
But
right?
okay,
Not to
can I
visit
just
your
say this?
club, but for me to have a club,
Well, this
right?
is what I feel. I feel okay, and I have to put it this way. Yeah, we'll be dead and buried by the time Black men build that. So we
Oh
can't wait
no.
on that. That's over. I believe that Black women here in America are well on their way to be able to build as much as we can for ourselves. um, because we just can't wait on Black men. So we have to start from where we are and then just build. I always say that the statistic of Black women going to college so much and getting degrees will at some point convert into businesses and being able to hire and make choices that are better for us as a group because the men are not doing it. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I
So
mean, I
I
do
I, I
understand what
get
you're
what you're
saying, but we could
okay.
have a whole separate conversation, and maybe we will, but we could have a whole separate conversation off of, is it possible for Black women to do that? Especially if we exclude Black men. And I would
We're not
say,
excluding them though.
no, 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 no,
They're
no. I'm
choosing not
saying
to.
if we, so if, so let me change the word then. Whether we exclude or whether they choose to not include themselves, right? If it goes either way, the point is, can we bear the brunt of creating that environment?
It's
I
not
think that's a
can we,
question
it's
I,
that we must. Because if not, where do we go?
well, I
It's
think
not can we.
I'm going
It's
to
we
keep it.
must.
Well, see, y'all are gonna make me want to have this conversation, and this is along the lines of the conversation I said I was gonna have, you guys. Anyway, go, don't make me want to have this conversation, okay?
I mean, I don't mean to be funny, but it's either we do it or it doesn't get done. So what are you gonna do? Live like say, well, I was
Well,
waiting
I
on him
I
to
think
do
there's
it.
a limit to what we can do as women, because at some point, for us to build too much, we would come into conflict with other men. We would come into contact conflict with men, right?
Right.
because because of our womanhood. So that's why I said this makes an interesting conversation, and like you're gonna make me want to have it, and I don't want to have it because it's
Okay.
gonna
Well,
get me.
and I'm not trying to
But
push it
no, but
too
I think
far.
we should have that conversation, because realistically, like, what are we talking about? Hey, Sin.
Because here's what the problem is: they're not going to build it. I don't
Hey,
know if we'll. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
hey Irene, hey
Hey,
everyone on the panel. I'm over
hey,
here
baby.
laid up trying to get better.
You're sick?
I think I
Oh,
have a sinus infection.
oh no.
Yeah, 'cause
Sometimes
my
those don't
face
go
hurt.
away. Sometimes they can be reoccurring depending on what kind they are.
Yeah, my face hurt, and so that's why I think I have it. 'Cause it's mostly like sinus pressure and then being tired. But I don't have a sore throat or anything else like that, but because I'm coming out of it, but I'm still really tired. So I'm just kind of laying up, relaxing.
Maybe change all your filters out. I mean, I know they're going to be new,
They
but
are new.
with
hmm
all of the like the post construction stuff, like I would change all the filters out. That might help.
No, we literally just changed all the filters out.
Oh, they're literally new. Oh, well then I don't know.
Yeah, like we just changed out all of them in the house.
Oh no, I don't know then.
And so it could have been me if I pass people who smoke cigarettes, I'll get it if from secondhand smoke, but yeah, I haven't kind of caught what we were talking about. Because I was over here watching in between. I'm watching Fatal Attraction. You know that show?
Mm-mm.
It's a show basically mostly about black men killing black women. Honestly,
Jesus Christ.
that's what
It's not about that, Sid. Is
no,
it
like it, no,
really?
like it. It seriously like really is. It's on TV1, and it's basically a show about black men killing their black girlfriends.
I can't. This is a
Yeah,
whole
like
show.
I won't be
uh,
watching that.
it's yeah, Fatal Attraction.
Ooh.
I have never.
It only has for the most part it only has black people on it. There was like it they may have like some mixed Hispanics or somebody biracial, but mostly is black people on Fatal Attraction.
Oh no, I
Yeah,
want to watch
and
that.
so that's why I say it's mostly cases of black men killing a black woman that he was in a relationship
Depressing.
with.
Mm-mm. TV1. I've never heard of that show before.
Yeah, it's kind of like Snapped, but black people version of Snap, kind of like that. And so, but I know it sounded like
Mm.
you guys were talking about black women building because black men are not.
Well, we started talking about Black women, the luxury movement, and I was saying how luxury is an arm of privilege, and we were kind of going back and forth. And she was saying that ultimately, when we talk about luxury being a form of privilege, I suppose she was saying, even if I gave you that point, at the end of the day, Black men aren't going to create a system that affords Black
Mhm.
women the
Exactly.
privilege to access luxury. So then that's left up to us. And I'm like, that's not realistic. Okay, I guess we're
It's
having the
not.
See, here's
conversation.
the thing.
I'm
Yeah,
like, it's
They're
not
not
it's
going
not
to do
realistic.
it
realistic.
though.
We can't
It's
do
not.
it because we're gonna
Mm-mm.
come up against men. So there's a limit to how far, even if we band together, how far we're going to go because of our womanhood.
So then,
So
Mhm.
I
so
feel
then we
like it or not, we're tethered. I mean, like it or not, y'all, I'm just gonna keep it real. We're tethered to their
I
choice.
mean, I agree. I agree. In a male dominated society, if you are women, um, if you are building because it requires competing with other men and you're socially beneath men in a male dominated society, you don't like you're just there is only that's why I say it's not really even possible for black women to build without black men because number one, black men are a destructive force in the community. So let's say black women do build these thriving communities. How are you going to keep black men out? Because number one, black men are the ones who are creating the crime in our community for the most part. So I mean, they're not. I feel like they will be more likely to commit crimes in neighborhoods where they know black women have built just based off of their mentality. And then you would have competition from other men. Like other men would come in and try to prevent that as well. But you're going to have a hurdle just dealing with black women, with the sabotage from black men. So I just don't even think,
but see,
I don't even really think it's possible.
but see, here's what I'm looking at. If and I understand what you're saying, I do. But either we are in other people's quote unquote spaces and enjoying luxury, or there will be no luxury at all if we have to wait
Well,
for them.
yeah, that
And
is
here's
how it
the
is.
thing, it then pushes a lot of women to think, well, I'm not going to mule my entire life, so I'm going to marry me a white man. You understand what I'm saying? Either we
Well,
build,
a lot of black women are going to have to do that anyway. Like, let's just say, for the sake of this discussion, hypothetically, there's a large pool of eligible black men for black women to marry. Now, we already know that's not the case, but just hypothetically, that's the case, and there's, whatever, a large pot because there's like a million more black women than black men. Even if even if every last black man decided to settle down with a black woman, that would still leave some black women who wouldn't have a choice but to go outside, either be in polygamous relationships that doesn't really benefit the woman, or you would have to go outside your race.
No, I
There's
totally
just
agree with
not
that.
enough black men at the end of the day. There's not.
No, I totally agree with that. And I do look at the numbers. So I understand what you're saying that regardless, there's a certain amount of black women, if they want to have a husband, they're going to have to go out of the race. But when you look at it as either waiting for them to build black men because we can't do it, your only other thing is to marry a man of another race because they're not going to. Like, I'm holding out
Well,
no
black
hope
men,
for
by and
black
large,
men.
but black men don't get married anyway. By
No,
and
but
large, black men don't get married. So I
well,
don't even, we shouldn't even include them in the pool of it because they almost just like don't even get married.
no, but see, I'm not even including them about getting married. I'm talking about building.
She's talking, yeah, she's talking about because I was saying, when we have like this black girl luxury movement or even talk about high value black men, this is all conversations we're having in the black community, which are surrounding our ability to basically be the top house slave. So acquire thing because Europe has no resources. So that's where I started. I said Europe has no natural resources. They can't really grow anything there. They don't have anything naturally occurring there, no mineral resources, etc. So when we talk about luxury, we're talking about normally um, Eurasian made goods that are using resources that are have been acquired through the rape and pillage of non-Eurasian nations. And so when we're having that conversation, we are measuring our access to luxury by our ability to attain the fruits of our own oppression. And I was saying that that's a very backward thinking. So while I'm not against partaking per se, I think that we have to really moderate how we promote this because the conversation about what that really is not happening when we're just flossing designer purses and I went to Mykonos or this and that. And I was saying that luxury is an arm of privilege. And to me, privilege is what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. A single mother able to have a child, grab a gun, go into another state, kill but a couple people, get off. A white woman walking into an apartment, killing a man while he's sitting in his chair and getting a hug. This is privilege. And people who have privilege have built spaces for themselves so that those with privilege can access them, which is why they look at us crazy when we walk in there. So while we can dip our toe into the pool of partaking in luxury, and I used Oprah as a perfect example, that woman is rich. She is wealthy, right? And she, because of the collective face of Black people, was even subject to and made beholden to our collective public face, which is one of either complete benignness, as in we don't matter, or is used as a tool, whether our bodies are being used as tools or our oppression is being used as a tool by some other group. And so she was saying that she necessarily doesn't agree with privilege and luxury, privilege being the arm of of luxury being the arm of privilege. But even if it were, Black women, because she is emphatic that Black men are not going to do the work, that we can work on building our own infrastructure systems, engaging in multinational commerce, etc. And I was just saying we're going to hit a ceiling, but all of this started with the conversation about Black girl luxury. And I think I'm not saying, again, ladies, that we shouldn't partake because I do. What I'm saying is we have to recognize when we're partaking and we are hashtagging these things, or when we are valuing men purely based on their ability to access, right, the fruit of another man's ability to oppress people like us. Then when this is how we're maneuvering about the world, we're really feeding into the very system that is problematic, that has caused us to need a hashtag about Black girl luxury. And I don't know, Sin, what do you think? Are you following me here?
Hello.
Yes.
Oh no, this is Apple. I'm sorry. I thought it went out for a
Oh, you
second.
know what? And let me, I'm sorry, because Alicia and Nyasha and Goodness are up here. Alicia, you came up and went down. I think you fell off. What happened?
Hey, my phone died.
So what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I like 100% agree. I know that when I'm over my family's house, they own like a bunch of land, businesses, natural resources, but I never benefit from that like in a way because I'm black. And even though I do benefit from having like wealth, I don't benefit from the system of white supremacy.
Yeah, like you can buy the bag. I mean, but you're not
Yeah.
accessing the true luxury. The luxury, I guess this is the thing. The luxury is not the bag or the car. The bag and the car are symbols of the luxury, but the luxury is the overarching benefit that caused places or things like that to be created for a certain group. And I think we convolute owning the bag or the car with accessing the luxury,
Yeah,
right?
we're convoluting class with privilege, and they're not
Yeah,
the same thing.
yes. And we think because when you are of a certain class, you can access the trimmings of that class and not even really access, but really partake, because access would require an all encompassing ability to utilize. And we don't have that. So
Yeah.
it's oxymoronic almost, Black girl luxury or high value Black man.
Yeah, and at the same time, I feel like you
No, I
have to
don't agree.
reach that height to understand the illusion of it all because I didn't know until recently, until I started paying attention, right? Until like I got some things in my family, that's when I started to realize like, oh snap, it doesn't go away. It's like a deeper problem.
But blackness never goes away. I mean, no one's going to erase that. But you do deserve to have things that are highly enjoyable. Like, I realize there's a difference. Privilege, again, is where you can go shoot someone and get off. That's a privilege. They can just do it. Luxury things are things that you can do for yourself. Vacation, whatever it is you may want to do, you can do it for yourself. But privilege is something that's extended. And I think um, we won't have it. What else to
Well,
build?
that's why I said, unfortunately, we are tethered, like it or not, to the movements Black men make because we can only gain ourselves so much access. What's really needed, what's really needed is the 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 full force of not just the symbolism of luxury, but the actual privileges of luxury.
I
And we
mean,
don't we
but I
don't
don't
have those.
think
And
we're
I get
going
I
to
guess
do it.
that's maybe that's it. Symbolism versus privilege. Nyasha, what are your thoughts?
Hello,
Yes.
can everybody hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I just had a question for Irene. Yes, of just a short question about your last show. You said something about girls staying home until marriage, and also girls start wearing um school. And I wanted to ask you for, maybe I misunderstand you on your point. Is I feel like sometimes as a woman, what triggered me on what you said was, is instead of telling boys to stay home until marriage, because boys are the one, being on the street, on the gang. I have a problem with forcing women to stay home until marriage until they're in their 30s.
Oh, well,
So,
goodness. I would hope that they would get married before their 30s. Not saying anything's wrong getting
Oh,
married in your
no.
30s, y'all. I'm not saying that. But I'll say this.
oh,
It's not
what's
I'm
the
not saying
post?
I'm not
What's,
saying
what's
force
the
them to stay home. That's not I don't mean force. So I think if
Okay.
there are sisters or like cousins that may be close, I think it's good for them to live together. I've definitely seen like young sisters or young women share an apartment, maybe even buy a house
Yeah.
together until, they get married. But it's not about forcing them, it's about protecting them. At the end of the day, as women, we know when we go off into the world, there's all kinds of predatory stuff that goes on. You have a lot of women that end up in prostitution or stripping or working menial jobs somewhere simply because they're trying to survive. I'm saying that
Yes.
women
So
deserve protection so that their family should be covering them until they can move under the protection of, let's say, their husband. So it's not forcing them. They could live at home, right? The point is, you don't have to worry about where you're going to live. You don't have to worry about what you're going to eat. You don't have to worry about, having to hustle or grind to try to script together a life for yourself because you're taken care of. I think that's more the idea than you're forced to stay home. And the reason I would never coddle a man or a young man to keep him home is because you need to get out there and learn how to compete in this environment. You need to be out there creating things and preparing yourself to have a family so that your wife is capable of staying home, with the children if she wants, being able to get pregnant, give birth, and not have to worry about running back off to work. And those lessons aren't going to learn if I'm washing your clothes and cooking your meals and doing everything for you. I think they need to learn how to lead and manage themselves and take care of others. And that can occur in a household if you're being parented as a man. And I think there's a lot of young men, and that's the reason that they're causing trouble, is because they have too much free time on their hands because their families are busy taking care of them. They have a mom that's basically doing everything for them, allowing them to stay home. They're running in and out of people's houses, sometimes their girlfriends, sometimes their parents, running amok in the street because they have nothing constructive to do because their livelihood is dependent on the care of their family. That needs to be flipped in the Black community. It should be the women who are being cared for by their families and the men that are out there trying to figure out life and how to stand in their manhood. So it's not about oppressing them or forcing women to stay at home. It's a privilege to be able to have a family, and this goes into privilege, right? And how luxury is the arm of privilege. That's a luxury. That's a privilege for a woman to know, I can go have an apartment with my sisters, or I can stay in my parents' house. And I know that somebody's going to make sure that my car is in working order. I know that there's going to be food on the table. I'm not going to have to compromise myself or whatever my morals are so that I can survive. I'm not going to have to be taken in by any man or maybe settle for a man I don't want because I'm trying to survive as a woman, because that's the job of her family. Her family should be watching out for her. And I think so many women are off in the world unprotected and fending for themselves. And this actually causes a lot of the problems that we see in the Black community. So it's not a punishment or a forcing them or anything like that. It's a privilege and a protection that I think women are owed and should have, not a punishment and something that's forced upon them like their property. That's not the vibe. You know what I mean?
yes, thank you for that. Now I understand. I'm sorry. I do believe women marrying at 30, like Dr. Chris. Oh, where did she went? Like this woman, Dr. Chris Wilson, the writer of the book, she said black women should marry at age 30, and I believe myself. I am 27, and I'm not going to get married now. I see I'm college, and I'm still learning. So I
Yeah, I
also want my
agree.
daughters to have time to grow. So 30 is absolutely fine. You can still get children. A woman can still get birth at 35. So calm down. So I don't want my daughter, even me as a Muslim woman. I was so happy when I moved off my home. I don't need more control. And instead of forcing women to stay home, why don't we create environment where women can be out there? Why don't we
Exactly.
control men who are out there raping, using women? Why don't
Well,
we,
I
instead
I
of
think I think both
that's my
things can be
problem.
true, right? It's not one or the other. And again, I know sisters who live like in an apartment together. I know sisters and cousins who have bought a home together before they got married. They may not have lived in their parents' home, but they still, if they needed something fixed, if something needed to be done, if they had a problem, like their families were there to protect them. I think when we talk about male control, I think there's male control and then there's male protection and leadership. I think if you live with controlling men who are not good people, then yes, it's going to be a very negative experience. I think if you live with men and women who love you and their priority is your protection and your guidance, so that you're just simply not thrown out into the world, that's like another vibe. So I do think the experience we have in these situations
It's different.
becomes
Okay,
dependent
I
on
hear you.
the men that are surrounding us and the women that are surrounding us, right? It
Yes.
can be oppressive or it can be empowering. It just depends on if you're surrounded with good people. Now that I don't have control over, right? But obviously I'm talking about in a healthy environment. I'm not supporting an environment where women are being controlled or abused. But I think protection and leadership, there's definitely nothing wrong with that as long as the source is a healthy source. And
Yes.
so that's kind of the conversation we're having. But I do think at the same time, it's not one thing or the other when it comes to the men. The men need to learn
Too
all of
much
those
freedom.
lessons. I
I'm sorry.
completely agree. But
Too
I don't
much
think the things
freedom. They
are
need to get back
mutually
under
exclusive.
control. I'm sorry. When it
What'd
comes
you
to
say?
men, they need. I just say I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm sorry for that. I said men need control. Men need to be. We're letting those men out there free. I'm sorry. They need to be back under control. So I think we should stop controlling women and get the man back in line. I'm
I
so
think the
sorry.
men have to, I think I agree with you that the men have to, well, I don't think we are controlling women because women are running amok, but I also think the men are running amok. And I think it's a lot of people without proper guidance, both male and female, that are navigating the world and they're making a mess of it. So I 1000% agree that men needs control, but that control has to come through other men. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. I'm a woman, so the person I can influence are other women and young boys, right? I have, I can influence my sons when they're young. I'm not going to have as much influence when they get older, and I can influence girls because I'm female. But at the end of the day, as far as controlling these boys that are out here doing the most and these men who are doing stupid things, that takes the strong arm of other men. And I mean, as women, we can ask for that, but that's really about them stepping up to the plate and doing that work. So I agree with you there, but I don't think that women are all under control like that. I mean, maybe in some places and in some families, but I think that women are really doing whatever the heck they want to do. And I think that's part of the problem is everybody without any wisdom or knowledge or
Yes.
responsibility is being allowed to just run around and make adult decisions with mindsets of like 10-year-olds.
Thank you
Goodness.
so much.
Oh no, but
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much
you coming up.
for, for answering, and this question to make it absolutely clear. When I moved out, I was very happy, and I would do it again. And my daughter doesn't need to get about marriage after the age of 30. She have college to do. Of course, she can experiment. If if men are out there, of course, she have to know about birth control. If men are out there that can do what I want to do, because it's what men do, men can be bachelors until they're 35. So I don't believe a woman should be
I wouldn't
married
trust a
at
man that
20.
was a bachelor till he's 35, honestly. I wouldn't trust that. But
Oh,
I'll say this.
really?
I wouldn't. But
I
I would
you
I-
would.
yeah, I definitely wouldn't trust a man that was it.
I
Once a
thought
man
you were
gets too
one of
far in
those
age,
girls.
that means he's
I thought
engaged
you
in
were,
a lot of whoredom and probably has hurt a lot of people and he's got a lot of baggage. And I personally wouldn't trust it if I were a young woman. But I'll say this. I think that um, I think that when it comes to when a person gets married, I think that it's good in a marriage to be able to have time together before you start a family, right? And
mm,
so if you get married very late in life as a woman, outside of it's we have all the eggs we'll ever have and our eggs just get older as we get older. That's just a very real thing. I know men use that to shame us, but it just is what it is. So let's forget how they interpret it because their sperm starts swimming crooked too. But I do think that it's good to be able to be with your husband and just enjoy the two of you. before you bring in children, because children are a huge responsibility, and it can be difficult on a fresh marriage to immediately have to bring in babies, right? That can be like a lot to deal with, a lot of adjustment immediately. And so I do think like every person has to make a decision for themselves. I'm not saying don't get married in your 30s. I'm saying I wouldn't trust a man, right, who got married too late in life. But I do think that it's something to think about if you're planning to get married, that having that time alone where it's just the two of you is healthy. And then you can work on that because that's a new change, right? And then you bring a third person into that who then has to become the priority. That's, I think, easier to do with some good foundation between you and your husband. Now, this is just my advice, but of course, it can work many different ways because everybody's different. Every person's personality is not the same. But I do think that that can be helpful because sometimes it can be overwhelming adjusting to living with somebody and being married to them and like all those adjustments. And then you bring in a baby, and babies are highly demanding. And that can be very overwhelming for some people. So I feel like that's a conversation, obviously that you would have with anybody that you are considering marrying. Like, how do we want to do this? Do we need some time to ourselves? And y'all know how I feel about birth control and all that. I mean, I think that men benefit more from casual sex than women do. I'm not saying women don't enjoy sex. I'm saying that men have been wishing for casual access to women's bodies for generations. And now it's like a smorgasbord of vagina. And I just think like popping pills and like giving men easy sex and all that is contributing to their retarded behavior. And we can't control what they do, but we can certainly control the benefits of their behavior. So we need to make it less beneficial for men to just go rogue until the age of 50. Like there needs to not be such an appetizing situation for them to simply whore themselves out for 30 and 40 years. They need to understand that, look, your good behavior and your ability and desire to have a family and do right by women is tied to your enjoyment of life. And right now, their enjoyment of life is not tied. And make no mistake, we as women are a big part of men's enjoyment of life. Their enjoyment of life is too easy for them. And that's why you find men off in their 40s and 50s talking about, I'll just get married whenever. When I'm 55, when I'm 60, I'll get married. Because it's a smorgasbord of vag, a smorgasbord of vag. But I'm going to save that commentary for why men think they're the prize video. Okay. Because,
Thank you so much. So are you saying
because
women
we
should
have
marry
a
in their
conversation.
20s?
What she said?
Do you think women should marry? We can't tell girls to stay a virgin until they're married. Right now, the people at any race, any group now marry much later. And for me, that's a good thing because even mental development takes time now
Yes.
than before. So we cannot say stay a virgin until your marriage.
I mean, no, we
No,
can say it. They just might not do it, but we can say it. And I do know
absolutely.
people, and I do know lots of people who were virgins until they were married, both men and female. I think it depends on your environment and like your personal culture and who you're raised around. I think sometimes we get the impression that lots of people are having sex, but honestly, you guys, this younger generation is having less sex than the older generations. And they aren't engaging in as many relationships as early. So, we look at chastity as something that we're forcing people to do, but I know lots, y'all, not a few, I know lots, but I think again that goes to culture and how you're raised. I don't think everybody will make that choice, but I do think that there's nothing more damaging to a relationship than baggage from previous relationships, and sexual baggage being one of those things. And when we start talking about people having children and you have to adjust to like the other kids they've had, people have been in long-term relationships and then not wanting to break those off, wanting to keep those friendships with people they've had sex with. Think about all the trouble in your relationships you have had because that person had slept with or been in relationships with X amount of people before you. That's a huge chunk of the BS that we put up with in relationships if we're keeping it real. So there's something to be said other than, feeling like we're oppressed because we can't give out the vag, or that you're oppressed because you can't give out the penis. Because I would say the same thing to men. there's all that baggage. Like a lot of the BS that we deal with comes from the fact that people were doing the most with their bodies prior to them getting with us. And then we have to deal with all of the stuff that they're carrying from all their previous relationships. You know, that's fine for those of us who have already rode the roller coaster. But if you haven't hopped on the ride, then you are a rare commodity. And I would say don't hop on the ride. You see, the people are screaming, they're not having fun. So you might as well learn from the mistakes of the people around you and just keep your chastity, be you a male or a female. Because these people
Thank
aren't
you.
out here happy. But but
Thank you
anyway,
for also
no
teaching from
problem.
the men to
You know
be
what, y'all,
also, you know.
go ahead. What were you
Thank
saying?
thank you so much to also put this virginity thing on the man. I feel like sometimes it puts so much on the woman and not on the man. People even say a real man must have sex before marriage, so he knows how to please his wife. Even in some cultures, men have bachelor time, until they're in their 40s and then get married. I know one of those villages where I come from, men, there is a village woman, a woman, that men go to until they're in their 30s and 40s and then get married, a virgin woman. And I like that. We also push this virginity also on our men
Yeah,
because,
that's
it's
disgusting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay, thank you
disgusting.
for that.
I think the one-sidedness, I'm with that. That's ridiculous. But anyway, y'all, I really want to
Thank
have
you.
this conversation. But you know what? Mr. came here because I wanted to do like bowling and laser tag, and I wanted to do putt putt because there's a place by our house that has like all that stuff, y'all, and they have a really live like adult bowling alley with like leather chairs and like a bar, full bar and everything. We're not going to that part, obviously, but anyway, he was like, "Well, we won't be able to go until like this time." And do you know this man showed up? It's only 1:36, which is around the time I wanted to leave. So we have to continue this conversation. Um, but we're gonna have to continue at another time because I'm about to go play bowling, do bowling and putt putt and everything with the little ones. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Goodness, you didn't get to say anything. What are you gonna say before we check out? Goodness, I've been
Hi,
so rude to
Irene.
you.
Hi, Irene. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. I have to tell you, I love your show, especially the show that you had yesterday with Mister. Oh,
Oh,
that
you
was
heard
so
that?
funny. Staging.
Yes, we were so
It's the
messy. Oh
it
my
is the
gosh.
creepiest thing, but they really do it. It's the creepiest thing.
Goodness.
I'm
I
so
thought he was lying. He's
I'm
still
so
trying to get an
upset.
apology.
I'm so upset when I see that. When I saw it, I actually see it physically because I go to regular funerals. But when I saw it on a magazine, I was like, oh my goodness! They actually had the man sitting down, just chilling. It's like
That is mad disrespectful, isn't it?
this is ridiculous. But anyway, to the point of the topic. First of all, I wanted to speak to Sinji because I absolutely respect her. She's actually my second YouTuber, and I've been with her ever since she started YouTube when she was talking about white supremacy. I always thought she was the perfect person to give the pathology of black men because I always figured that black men have a pathology issue. They're they're not like regular men. They're not
Exactly.
they're not held accountable to the standards of being men. So I always thought Cynthia was the perfect person to give that analogy. And when she started to do it, I was like, wow, this is perfect. She's absolutely great at what she does. And I wanted to get a chance to speak to her, but she dropped off. And
Yeah, she said she was sick. She had a sinus infection.
you're actually the fourth YouTuber, and I've been with you ever since. Because I'm relatively new. I just been like YouTube. No, I'm not relatively new, but you're actually my fourth YouTuber that I started listening to you. And y'all women are grateful, impacted my life. You're giving me a brighter perspective, a bigger perspective. And I just wanted to say that. But
Oh,
being to
mhm.
that issue of your topic, black men are not the same as other men. Because I work with a lot of different nationalities, and
Exactly.
I see that black men are not held to the same standards as other men. Other men are expected to do things for their community and for their women and for their children, but not black men. And especially black men, because once they get on, this is a perfect saying, Once they get on, they leave you for a non-black woman. They leave the neighborhood. They leave the women. They get non-black women, and they extend their wealth elsewhere. So I have to agree with the woman. I think her name was Natasha. Yes, if black men wants to be used like bucks, black women have to get on board. Use black men like bucks. I have to say,
Thank you.
every woman, every job that I have been privileged to work for only women. So, white women as well as black. So I have to say, it could be done. Black
Wait,
women just have
what do you mean like bucks? What does that mean?
bucks is like, um, just like a broad shoulder, a strong shoulder. You know, you do this, you do that, you do this. Just order them around like they're being ordered around now. That's how you have to use them.
Oh goodness. I would hope that we can have a more functional relationship amongst us.
But they're not.
But you
They're
can't.
not held to the same
I think
standards
we can't.
as
Well,
other group of men. That's what. That's
I think we can. I don't think we can with all black men, but I definitely think we can. I mean, I work with black men
I mean,
well
I
May I
all
know
the
ask a
you
time.
are a
question?
wonderful person, but most black men are not like the black men you work for. This is my
Well,
brother in the
yeah,
picture.
I'm
He's a
not saying
wonderful
that they
black man,
are. I'm just
but
saying
most
that
black men are not like that.
I think we have to focus on those black men who are like that and stop.
But
We put
but
too
this
much
but this
we put too much energy into degenerate people.
but
And
the
we need to put
majority
more
of the
energy.
I'm not, most people are not degenerates. They're just getting by to get by.
It's not a priority to do anything for the black men. They're
It's not
just
a
not going to
no.
do it.
No, black men
It's
are
not.
just not held to the same standards as other group of men. Other group of men hold their men, the men that look like them, to a certain standard. Black men don't hold each other. The women don't hold the men, and this is where the confusion is at. So black men want to be used like bucks because they are being used like bucks. Let them. We have to realize
Oh my
black.
gosh, you gotta find out a different way to say that because that is making me cringe. Oh my gosh. Oh
Irene,
goodness sakes.
we
I
as
can't
black
take it.
women,
You're
we
you messing my mind up right now.
we as black women have to realize we are not like other groups of women where they could sit back and relax and let their men do everything. Obviously, we had 500 years of nothing. Look at Africa.
Man,
How could you be the poorest country when you have gold under your feet? I always said that.
I
How in
mean,
the
I was
world?
talking about that earlier
How
today.
in the
We
world?
know how that happened, but
You literally have gold under your feet, but you allow other groups of men to come in and dominate you because I believe because black men want access to other group of women. They want access.
and that's why I said we have to build for ourselves as black women because they just don't care. Like I mean this with all respect, but I think Yvette, you have had the privilege to be around some really extraordinary black
I just
men.
want to. I'm at work.
It's not the
I just
majority.
want to get this one point out. Yes, she is right. You have been around extraordinary black men. That's not the majority.
Thank you.
It's not. So, like and as other groups of women, they're not. We're not. We have to come together and realize this that we just can't sit back because we've been sitting back for like 500 years. Have anything got done? No.
No, and nothing is going to get done. I think that one of the biggest issues in our community, and although I understand it, it's still a problem, is that we're too hopeful and we're not willing to. Well, I wouldn't say we're not. Most of us are not willing to actually have an honest discussion about Black men. And if we look at the definition of degeneracy, most people, I think, especially men, because men, if you look on the spectrum of everything, violence, crime, certain mental disorders, they affect men the most. Let's just be honest. Even when you look at the LGBTQ community, transformers, like defects, mostly it affects males. By and large, by definition, most males are degenerate. And I think if we narrow that down to race, for sure, indisputably, unless we just don't understand what degenerate mean, most black men are degenerate. They just are. And I think we should be honest with ourselves in saying that. And I think that one of the biggest reasons we don't really have any progress is because the most important people in our community realizing who black men are refusing to do so, and that's black women. Even though we're being shown, we're still very hopeful. We don't want to believe that it's most black men, although we know that it's impossible for most black men to be good and not degenerate. Like we prefer to stay in the comfort of delusion rather than to feel the cognitive dissonance that's going to accompany the truth about black men. And I think yesterday on my live stream, that foreign caller, she was a perfect example of the cognitive dissonance and the response when it's felt by black women when they have to face the truth of black men. So that's what I think is one of the biggest issues.
I didn't hear your live yesterday. I have to listen to it. Yeah, I mean, I've told Sin that privately, that there are some things
Cynthia, are
about
you
the
there?
community. There are some things about the community I don't ponder too deeply because it's uncomfortable. I mean, I'm gonna just be honest. Like, there are some things where I'm just like, ugh,
Can I say something though?
yeah.
If you don't face those things, you can't come to a solid conclusion of where black men are. I've come to the conclusion from their action, the majority are happy. They're not going to do anything. So either we do it or it doesn't get done.
Well, I agree that the majority aren't going to do anything. I think it takes a small minority, and I guess I do I try to put my energy into black men and women who will do something. And I figure the degenerates are really going to go with whoever has power. And so for me, I don't concern myself with trying to convert their minds because ultimately they're going to obey whoever has power. And so I think I feel good when I'm able to interact with black men and black women who have a purpose, and that helps keep me grounded. Otherwise, it's very easy to get drowned in, because it's very easy to get drowned in the masses of our people who have no purpose. You know what I mean?
I
We
do.
if we all give up if we all give up, then it becomes self-annihilatory. So at some point we have to draw a line to protect ourselves, or there's not going to be anybody left who has faith in anything black to preserve anything black.
But
But
I
So I
I
think
think
it's a fine line that we're walking. But I
but
agree with Cynthia that we do as women have to take action to provoke change, or at the very least to stop enabling a lot of the degeneracy that's going on in our community. I think that is valid. I won't disagree with that.
Irene, nothing
Yeah.
I
is going to
also
change.
think that
It's going to
I,
be 500 more of the same thing.
it
500 more years
is.
of the same thing.
If
Nothing's going to
you
change unless the women take action.
yeah,
Women, we have to do something different. This hasn't worked. The past 500 years, I mean, look at Africa.
they're not going to do
it's not
anything.
even just the past 500 years. We're talking thousands of years, as far back as you can trace history. If you look at black men's actions and beliefs and values, they've been relatively the same. They've just kind of evolved as time and technology have evolved. But black men have always been self-hating. They've always been treasonous. They've always been integrationists. Soon as they set eyes on other groups of people, they've valued those people and their culture than their customs and their genetics more than their own. And so black men throughout history have been the same. Um, And yet it is Black women who still rigidly refuse to see who Black men are. And it's interesting because, I talk about my time used to be a Christian. And I know in the Bible it speaks about, people who will be shown the truth, but they'll reject it and ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what Black women are doing right now. They're being shown the truth
We are
blatantly,
willfully
and yeah, and
obtuse.
they're
Willfully.
being willfully obtuse. And I think that Black women at this point need to start thinking, especially if you are a spiritual person, whatever your religion is, if you're paying attention to your religion, especially Christianity, there have been times where people have been eradicated because they've become very problematic. And I don't see how Black people think we're not on the verge of that. I don't know how you can be spiritually in tune and not be able to feel that something huge is going to happen. Our community, the way that it is just not sustainable. Black men are refusing to do anything. If this is a battle between good and evil, then Black men, by and large, have chosen the side of evil. And by Black women's unwillingness to see what's being shown to them, you're inadvertently choosing evil right along with the men who have obviously chosen evil. I mean, it's blatantly clear to everyone but
Exactly.
Black women.
Right.
Yesterday, I asked on my panel, and this is what sent that Black male worshiper, the foreign one, into her tirade, because I asked her if she could give me an example of one behavior that Black men engage in as a collective group to show Black women and overall society that they like and or love Black women, and she could not do that because there is no example. There is nothing that Black men are doing to convey to anyone that they like or even love Black women. They're not doing it. In fact,
It's
what
because
they're
they don't.
doing, yeah, what they're doing is showing disdain, dislike, disgust, and hatred. That's what they're doing. No one would be confused or silent if I said, give me an example of what Black men do to show that they love white women. I think we would be able to list
Mm-hmm.
from history even up to now what Black men have been doing to show that they love white women, but yet no one can give an example of what they do to show that they love or like Black women. And I think that being a fact and Black women's willingness to ignore it is a huge problem.
Black men are comfortable under the gonads of white men. And
Yes.
Black women have to realize that we don't have that privilege to be comfortable under the gonads of Black men. They have showed us this. They have showed us this
But
countless times.
it's even larger
Amen.
than that. Like it's even a greater issue than that, because even now on this panel or in this chat box, anybody can anybody can answer. As a collective group, what is it that you think Black men do to send a message to Black women and overall society that they like you or even love you? I mean, it's really a simple question. Anybody could answer it, but the fact that we're not able, like, I've been pondering on this all day. I've been trying to think of what Black men do as a collective to send a message to overall society, that they value and like Black women. And I can't come up with anything. I can't come up with one behavior. In fact, even when I try to think of it, the only thing that runs through my mind is the numerous different ways in which they show society and the world that they despise Black women. And so when it gets to a point where your male group or any group is
Oh, I wasn't
blatantly,
here.
huh?
I walked off. If people are like, "Can I re-answer?" I wasn't. I walked out. I'm sorry, y'all. I walked out the room.
Well, what they're asking is, when I asked on my panel the other day, was there one behavior that Black men engage in as a group to show overall society that they like or love Black women? And nobody was able to name one thing. We had people on the phone line, about 30 people in the call queue. We had nearly 3,000 people in the chat box. Nobody could list anything. And I'm trying to figure it out. I've been trying to think of it all day. And I can't figure it out either. So when it gets to where you can't even
You can't even find one behavior that they engage in to show that they like you. It's a problem. That is a problem. That's indicative of a deep level of self-hatred on black women's part. Because for you to continue to stand behind men who are only showing the world that they hate you and despise you, that is really a reflection of how you feel about yourself as a black woman as well.
And other
I
racial people
agree.
realize this because I'm
Exactly.
Haitian, and I remember you doing a segment on the Haitian when the Haitian was trying to get into the United States, and the police officer on the horse said the reason why your country looks the way it does is because you do not respect your woman. Because if you respect your woman, you will
Part.
try to
Five.
build for the woman.
Listen. Five. If you want some smoke, or if you think you can answer the question, you can come up here. But see, that cognitive dissonance is tearing you up because in the time it took you to write that silly message, you could have simply gave an example of what black men are doing to show that they like or love black women as a collective group. And see, this is when I think it becomes the issue of being sad and pathetic, because you have these men who have such an emotional response to something, and they think that I'm too dumb to see through what they're doing. The bottom line of it is if you could counter anything that I was saying, if you could disprove examples to substantiate that you love or like black women, you would simply be doing that. You would just do it. You would prove me wrong. How many black men in this space on YouTube do you really think wish they could prove me wrong? But they can't, and that's why you're emotional. So you can sit there and say it's like listening to a child. As a grown man, you don't know how to separate yourself from commentary from someone that you don't like listening to, but here you are in Irene's chat box twerking and bussy popping, acting like somebody's forcing you to be here and no one is.
Who are you
When
talking to?
A five.
Oh, no, Onyx, she's not talking to you. Onyx, why do you want all your comments deleted? I don't know what you guys want me to comment on,
The thing is,
specifically.
I always feel like instead of wasting that energy
Melanated,
on,
answer what specifically are you talking about? What question? Reiterate the question.
black men do not respect
I,
black
I
women
think
and they
she
do not
I
respect
think she
black
wants
children.
you I think she wants you to give an example of what black men do as a group of men to show society that they like or love black women.
Oh, well, I can't give an example of that. We know that there's nothing collectively going on as a large group in mass.
so
I mean, you
why
guys
should
know I'm
we
not
See,
going to make
another
anything.
song,
I'm
but
not going to
hold
make
on.
anything. I'm not going to make
If
anything up.
everybody could answer like Irene do, it would literally be lovely if people could just answer like Irene does, mature and honest. Because at the end of the day, you can. There is nothing that they're doing. If you were
Yeah,
to
I mean, if
grab
there
the
was, I would
random,
be honest about it, but I think that's part of the problem. I think it's a for me it's a temper thing. I'm not going to pretend something's going on that's not going on. That's obviously a problem. That's why I said I don't think the majority are behaving in any way that's appropriate, and that's why I said earlier I try to focus on black men and women who are on their purpose, because if I got caught up in what the majority are doing, that is very discouraging. And that's just the reality. That's why I understand where the ladies are coming from when they are extremely frustrated. I understand that, especially if you don't have the benefit of even having anybody in your personal life that's about anything. Then that's doubly, because I've had a lot of women say, I've never even met a black man that's on his purpose. So I get that. Um, the question is like what we do with that, because like I said, what I recognize is that we are tethered together. And when I
Oh no,
see
we're
that
not. Black women are
we're
not
tethered together.
tethered
Yes, we
with
are.
no, we're not. We're
We're
not.
tethered
Because
together.
they are asking black
We're
women.
tethered.
No, 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 no. I don't believe so.
well,
No,
I
but
don't
I'm
believe
here's
so.
here's what
I
a
do
lot of
not
people don't
believe so.
understand. This is
I
what
don't
a lot
believe
of people
so.
don't understand. Love is an action word. It's a verb. It's a
exactly?
behavior that you engage in. So if there's no behavior that you can engage in to quantify the act of love, then there is no love.
I
And
mean,
so,
how could we be tethered to black men when black men blatantly say they don't want
well,
anything to
we
do?
literally
Most
give
black
birth
men,
to him. I mean, we give birth to him, so we are
but
tethered to him.
but
It's just that simple. They come through
most
our wombs.
most black men blatantly say they don't want anything to do with black women.
That's my
A lot of black
point.
men say that. How
So
could we be
I
tethered to
don't
somebody who
understand why
deny
we waste
you?
energy.
Well, because they hate you. That's why they hate you. That's why they separate from you. They do. They're
Exactly.
going
So
to
how could we be
separate from
tethered?
you because they hate you.
They cut
And
the
that's just
string.
one. And that's just one of the one. Look, we can talk about the way they're always talking about how you look, your skin tone, your facial features, how they prop other women on a pedestal above you, how they murder one of you every 5.5 hours. Your DV rates are extremely high. They won't marry you when they procreate children with you. They abandon you. They make society hostile for you. Look at how easy it is for me to list off the ways in which black men show their disdain. Nobody is confused about black men's behaviors that show disdain. The confusion comes in when we start talking about like and love. That's when the confusion come in. And that because they're not engaged in any of those behaviors. You could go ask a random person who's not even in the black community, do they think black men like black women? And they're likely going to say no.
So
Nobody
that's why I
forces
think
black men to like black women. No one does.
No, I think that most people believe that they prefer other women over us. And that's just true. And I think as Black women, we believe that too. And I think that's because of what's
that's because
openly
it's what it
exhibited.
is.
And I do think that that's unfortunate. You know what I would love? I would love sometimes when we have these conversations and the men are listening for them not to get offended, but to think more about like, what can I do to change this? If Black women are saying we don't feel loved as a collective, and if we're honest about the messages that are put out about Black women and what Black men prefer, which is not Black women, I think if we're honest about that on all sides, the men included, then we could have conversations surrounding about how to fix that rather than getting upset that it's being said or getting upset that people are offended by what the reality is. I think sometimes ego is getting in the way of progress.
Iran,
And sometimes ego has to go to the side so that
I
we can move forward.
I think that it's a minority who don't feel that way. I think the lack of you seeing them say anything is because that's how they
Mel-
feel.
me-
And
melanated saying,
let me tell you something, Five. Let me tell you something, Five. Don't make me use your own family member to prove my point. I'm telling you that right now. Because don't
Mel,
make me do it. Don't make me do it. Because you know I will and you know I can. So don't make me use your own family to prove my point.
melanated is talking about women who marry out. This is what I'm saying. These I can't have this conversation today because I'm about to go bowling. But I'm
Okay.
going to say this: these conversations, I was telling you I wanted to have this conversation about marrying out and all of this stuff. Look, this is not something Black women can do in mass, and there still be Black women. So we are tethered to them to exist. For Black people, be they male or female, to
I
exist,
don't
we
know.
will be tethered to each other. The moment we cut the tether, then in 3 or 4 generations, we won't be having conversations about Black men and Black women because there won't be any Black men and Black women.
And I,
So it's easy for me to say what I did or what my cousin did or what the lady down the street did, but we start talking millions of people, then that starts to be a different conversation. So then are we talking about the maintenance of Black womanhood while it still exists? Are we talking about the maintenance of Black womanhood with the intention of it existing in the future? And so that's like a whole conversation that I want to have. I really do want to have that conversation. I was saying that over on Sense too. Like when we're really having these conversations, I want to be clear on if we are all clear on the conversation that we're having, because some of the solutions I see thrown out are not effectual in mass. They may work for a small portion of people, but if we all, or the majority of us, or a sizable minority, were to engage in those behaviors, then the end is what I'm curious. Are we checking into? And that's why I say we're tethered together. We can cut the tether. Right now, Black women could be like, tether cut. No more, we're not dealing with this. It's gonna be like 5 of y'all that are gonna give our attention because 5 of you guys have sense. But then are we comfortable with being truthful about what the logical end of that is. The solution can't just be automatically to marry out. The solution can't be go get an African, because let the African ladies tell it they're not all that great, right? Throughout the continent. The solution just can't be screw them, we're going to build for ourselves. At some point down this line, they have to be dealt with, or we are saying we are standing for the last generations of Black women. Like
I
these,
think
that's
that's it.
really the conversation. At least I see that being the conversation. And I want to have that, but because I can't really get into it the way I want to get into it, because I gotta go bowling, y'all. Because
All
bowling
right.
matters.
Have a great time. And Cynthia, I love you. I love you, Cindy. All right. Bye, guys.
By goodness. But anyway, Sin, are you gonna have that conversation? Because I really want to know what you're gonna say. Because I I'm gonna force her to have the conversation.
You know I'll have that discussion with you in 5. Like, please stop it. You like really? And how old is he? That man ain't realized nothing. He just took so many different L's that now he's pretending. And even if he did realize it, it's too late. He's done. It's just that simple. Again, don't make me blast your family.
Still post Kevin Samuels is a homosexual. I'm positive. Okay, allegedly, but he's ultra gay. And the last thing I'm going to do is listen to a gay man. Now, I'm more likely to listen to this man in my house who's a whole man than I am to listen to a homosexual man with no family, no wife, and has not proven to anybody that he can maintain anything that looks like a functional household. So, no, that's what I won't be doing. I'm going to need a man with a whole family that he knows how to manage, children that he's raised to be good adults, to give me advice on anything, to deal with anything. Otherwise, I'm not trying to hear it. This man has been unsuccessful in managing the base things that a man should manage. And him putting on a suit and flossing over YouTube and talking about how you need to stick your fingers up your butt to clean it, and asking men how the size of their penis, and judging women's looks and appearances when he's not been able to maintain a household with a woman in it for any significant amount of time, nor raise his children to the conclusion of their ripe age of 18, I will not. Okay, that's a no for me. Now, all these low self esteem people with no lives and no ambitions and no happy homes can go over there and listen to him peddle the stuff that will produce exactly what he has in his life, which is the fruit of nothing. But for those of us who choose to listen to people who are successful in areas that we wish to achieve success, we're going to be looking for somebody that has actually accomplished the things he preaches about. You can preach and you can do. He talks. I like doers. I have conversations with doers, and I advise that the women have conversations with doers. I don't know this masochistic, sadistic sort of cesspool that's going on over there. Like, let him get his money. If people want to go over there to embarrass and be embarrassed, then more power to them. But we do not mention the unmentionable, and I don't rock with the gays, so there will be no KS talk on this channel. And with that said, I
How
really
about Era Black stop bussy popping in the comment section, and 5 stop bussy popping in the comment section, and just give us one example of how Black men express their love for Black women. See, this is why we don't take you seriously. This is why we don't respect you, or at least I don't. This is why I don't take you seriously and I don't respect you. I don't even see you as a man. I see you as a broken buck male. Because you could have been just put your example in the chat box. Either put the example or just concede the point. The reason why you have other races of people who sit up here and get mad if P. Diddy acknowledges Black women in a positive way is because y'all never do it. You never do it. You never say anything positive towards Black women. And that's why whenever you say something like even shout out to Black women, something you could just say hi to Black women. They're so used to your disdain, they see it as problematic and abnormal if you even be cordial to Black women. That means you've been putting in work to show how much you hate and despise Black women to the degree that it's abnormal if you be nice and give one a compliment. That's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem. I don't know why we should debate this. I think we can honestly say that as a collective, Black women, lots of don't feel confident because their men aren't showing that they're held to the highest esteem. So I don't think that's debatable. I don't know. We don't need to debate things that don't need to be debated. I mean, there's no ego in that. If you as an individual man are doing the right thing, then we can look subjectively at the collective, right? But things can be triggering if they hit home, but nothing has to hit home if that is not applicable to you. I think we can still engage in honest conversations though. But anywhoosy.
I don't think they want to engage in honest conversation. Black men want to run around being degenerate little haters, and they don't want anybody to point it out. The bottom line of it is all you've done is express hatred for Black women, and so therefore, the only thing that people see, people only think you hate Black women. It just is what it is. You've done that.
I'm surprised that Five would really debate that because Five is normally cool, from what I know. In the past, I haven't seen you around for a while though, Five. I feel like I haven't seen you in maybe a year, but has,
Five is not about to
has,
debate that because he can't debate it. Because if he could, he would have just dropped an example in the chat box. He's in there twerking because he can't debate it. So he wants you to be distracted by his bussy popping up and down, throwing that bussy in a circle, but we're not
stop,
distracted.
because those create such gross visuals in my mind, and I feel like you're always traumatizing me with the visuals. Don't
You
talk
sound
about
like
booty.
Jazz now.
You know what makes me think of that rap song where all the guys were in shorts and they were like male cootie. Have you guys seen that video? Well, I have,
Like
and I
the,
can't
the
unsee
little
it.
like the little Nas X one.
No, there's like an older rap video where like all the dancers were guys, like skinny guys that were like twerking. I've not seen any of Nas X's
No,
videos
I
because I just
don't.
refuse to watch
uh,
them. But every time you say bussy or anything, it makes me think, oh, pop that man cootie. I think that's the name of the song or something like. Has anybody seen this? I'm not making this up. This is a real song that I've really heard. I don't know. Five is normally reasonable. What's going on with you, Five? Do you really disagree with her? I don't think everybody loves Cynthia's delivery, but I think we'd be hard pressed to really argue against um, the things that she says. I think I'm with Q Butter on this. If you don't want to hear Cynthia say anything else, then take care of the problem. Everybody has a problem, and I think Q was super on point when he said this. Everybody has a problem when Cynthia talks, but nobody wants to talk about correcting the things that she's talking about. They just want to be angry that she's saying it. And I think that's the problem is it's all ego. It's all ego because we don't like what's being said, but we can have the same conversation in a much calmer way. I guarantee I've said many of the same things on this channel, but differently. Like my delivery is different. So we don't deny the truth in it. Some of y'all just don't like sin. Let's just keep it.
you sound like an idiot. Five sounds like an idiot. No, Tariq got those terms from me. You sound like a dummy. And get off Tariq's nutsack anyway.
Let's have that conversation though. I'm about to go bowling. I hope you feel better, Sin. And you guys let us know in the chat, what do you think about the Black girl luxury movement, the idea of high value Black men? Do you think that we are tethered together? Um, and do you think that Black women are capable of building on our own? Do you think that it's going to take Black men's contribution? Do you think that Black men value Black women and that our esteem is really tied to their openly devaluing us in mass, right? I'm talking about in mass, not how you personally move as a Black man or how you personally have experience as a Black woman. If I based it on my personal experience, I would say yes, Black men value Black women. But if I base it on what I see all over the place, I would have to say that no, I see Black women being devalued. So I want you guys to try to be honest and let's step out of our egos for a minute and let us know. And then hopefully sometime soon we'll have that conversation because I really do want to talk about it. I've been thinking
Yeah,
about
I
it
think
that
you
ever
should.
since I was over on your channel, and because I haven't even worked it out in my mind yet. I really want to have that conversation because I'm curious. I'm kind of scared. I'm intimidated. I'm not scared. I feel intimidated to explore that road myself. So I
Why?
kind of do want to talk it through. Um, But anyway, I'll
Why
talk to y'all later.
though?
What'd you say, Sid?
Why though? Why do you feel intimidated to
I don't
explore it?
know. Let's talk about it privately. I'll tell you privately. But yeah,
Yeah,
we can talk.
it's a lot. It is. It's a lot. Like when I was
Yeah.
researching, and I really do need to at some point edit it and re-premiere it. But when I was researching, doing the research